Hello, everyone. Hi, back again, a second live, meeting so many wonderful people, talking about such important topics. And I'm so excited that you're joining us. We're just letting everyone know that we're on. And I am meeting with today, discussing with Aliza Tropper, who is an amazing psychotherapist in New York. And we are going to be talking about a very specific area around dating, which is about mental health and dating, because mental health is so much more, I'm just going to invite her, than people like to realize, or like to admit, let's say, and we need to deal with it. So let's deal with it. Hi.
Hi, hello. Okay.
Nice to meet
Haven't
you.
done this in quite some time. I'm like, how do I get on here?
Right.
But it seems like you figured it out.
I invited you. Yeah. You can either request or I can invite you, but welcome and nice to meet you. And I'm so excited that we're
I
doing this
know, me
topic
too.
because
I've
it's
been
so
like
important.
running like back to back today, but sorry if I was a little late, but I'm so glad to be on here. And we'll have
Yes.
a nice little
Have
chat.
a chat about a really important topic that I think people don't know how to deal with generally. And it's so important to bring it to
Hmm.
the light and to be able to
Yeah.
just, normalize it and take the fear out of it. That's really my goal for today,
Hmm.
is that people are so scared of it. And especially when it comes to dating, like mental health and dating is like, people get freak out and they,
Yeah.
no, no, no. If I hear anything, I'm running away. And I understand it, but the more you understand, the less scary it is.
It is.
So
It's so,
you are
so
the
true.
expert, and we want to, well, we both have different expertises in this, and I'd love to hear your take on a number of topics around it.
Sure.
You want to
Um,
tell everyone just a little bit, like my followers, like, who you are and a little bit about yourself and how you
sure.
practice?
Yeah. So I am a licensed mental health counselor, a licensed psychotherapist in New York area. Have a private practice in Long Island, specifically Cedars, New York.
Mm.
I work with adolescents and adults, those dealing with anxiety, depression, trauma, relationships, life transition, just feeling stuck in life and just trying to figure out life in general. Life can be challenging, and so love really just helping people
So
guide them and
nice.
figure their, get them unstuck. Um, and
How do you
I
practice?
mean,
Are
what
you
do you
more,
say?
how do you practice? Like, what's
My
what modalities do you like to practice?
modalities. I am a DBT, EMDR.
Oh,
I practice
cool.
EMDR, DBT, CBT, somatic. I'm kind of all around because
Really?
as I worked with clients over the years, I really feel as humans, we need a holistic approach. We are not just the mind, we're not just the body, and all pieces are so important. So through my really journey of working with people, I'm like, I need this to help clients. We're not, so that's really why I just ended up and just being trained in so many different ways and really based on the client.
Beautiful.
I
I'm so
try, yeah.
excited to meet you
So
because I have a lot of clients in New York, and I'm always looking for specifically therapists who can tap. Everyone who's watched my stuff knows I rant on about this. The subconscious. You must tap into the deeper
yeah,
self that expresses through the body and go through the body, not just the mind, and exactly that. So I'm surprised we haven't met because I lived in the five towns for 8 years.
really.
So
Okay.
yes.
And now you live
Now I
where?
live in LA.
Right
This
up.
is my morning coffee of the day. Like
Okay. Okay.
it's
And
nine
you are
o'clock.
a dating. I miss your date. You're a dating coach, and
I'm
you.
Yeah, I'm a
Okay.
psychologist by trade. I
By
practiced
trade.
in Australia.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
and then I went to
Oh,
Israel, became observant, went and learnt Torah, absorbed
oh,
Torah, taught
nice.
Torah at Neve Yerushalayim, and then in Kiruv for 12 years,
Wow.
integrating the two. And now I'm back into more of this space of personal growth and development as a coach rather than just a purist psychologist. But
Yeah.
I'm very much focusing on singles, and I'm just about to launch a married women's course because all my married women are like, why can't we use these tools? They're deeper tools. It's not about
We all
dating.
right.
I'm
So
not a
true.
classic dating coach that just gives you advice, even though that's very important. I go deeper as to like, why isn't it happening for you? Why are you stuck? Why are you in this? Why are no dates showing up for you, but they are the next person? That's because what's going on in you, right? In our own patterning, our own limiting belief systems in our subconscious. And unless you access that, you can't shift it. And so going through, I'm trained in somatic psychotherapy, and I teach
Okay.
I know, we're so
I
alike.
know.
And I teach.
We should have chatted before.
We should have done it before. I teach my clients, I tried to break down a way of teaching people, the average person, how to tune into their body, listen to their subconscious through the body, right? And be able to work with it in a different way. And it transforms their life
It
very
really
quickly.
does.
Quickly. You don't have to stay for years in therapy. It's like,
It really, really does.
it really
Our
does.
bodies are like giving us messages all the time.
I
If we just
know.
tune into it.
I know. And then when we have, and that leads me, I'm trying to segue into our topic quite quickly.
Yeah. Okay, fine.
I'm
Let's get
like,
into
how do we
mental health.
segue to that? Because I could talk about this all day. But
let's talk about mental health and dating.
But mental health, I think, is a spectrum. That's the most important thing, is that like it's a spectrum. It's not, and what happens in dating, at least, is like there's us, the normal, healthy people, and then there's those people with mental health issues. And there's this black and white box that people put you in.
And it's so not.
It's so not. It's a spectrum. And we all experience anxiety at different times, or depression at different times. And when you get to know your own feelings of anxiety and depression, let's say, not clinical depression necessarily, but depression, it's like a spectrum.
Feeling down or going through something.
Right. It's not scary. It's not as scary. So can you speak a little bit about that, about the spectrum and about... Yeah.
So mental health, we all need, right? Like mental health is something we all need. It's not the stigma. It's like, what do you need mental health? No, that's something we all need. Same way we need physical health, we need to be mentally healthy, which basically covers many different aspects of our life, right? Like, how can we be present? How much are we showing up in our lives where we're able to be present? Are we stressed out? Are we burnt out? Are we experiencing anxiety? Are we going through a stressful event right now? We want to look at many aspects, right? Like, how are we in our relationships? How are we in relationship with others? How are we in relationship with ourselves? So mental health is about looking at so many different parts of our lives. And it doesn't mean, oh, are they schizophrenic? Are they going through a depressive episode? No, but let's look at, are we able to be mindful? Are we connecting to ourselves? Are we present? How are we feeling mentally right now in our lives? Am I taking on too much stress? So I think with dating, and people who get very afraid of that word, but really it's like, let's take a step back for a minute, and even just in terms of medication, people get so scared. It used to be that if someone was on medication when they were dating, no, we cannot go further dating, right? Today, it's changed so much, because I think instead of people getting so caught up on, is this person on medication or not? It's like, let's look at their overall functioning. How are they functioning? People could be not on medication and be functioning very poorly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and
so it's not about are they on medication.
Bravery. It takes a certain bravery to go on, like to take care of whatever situation's going on and to take medication. I personally use medication as a way to get out of a hole. If you're in a hole and you're struggling with anxiety or depression or whatever it is, and you can't get out of that hole enough to do the other work you need to do. So medication is amazing at getting out of a hole so you can do the work. And for those people that don't take medication out of principle, I don't want to take medication.
Are you finding me blurry?
No.
So it's like a little bit delayed.
It just started being a tiny bit delayed, but it's okay. Oh yeah, it's like coming in and out a little bit.
Right. It's a little bit. Should I go out and come back on or no? Okay.
Try.
Should I try for a minute? It's hard to see you. Okay, let me try one. Let me rejoin.
It's hard to see me. Oh, yeah. So mental health is a spectrum, and we have to own the fact that any of us at any time have mental health challenges. Let's say we're not talking about mental illness, but mental health challenges. Aliza, you're not blurry. I know she left. She's going to come back. Mental health challenges. Only I'm blurred. I'm blurry? Oh, that's interesting. Let me see. Is that better? I don't know why. Am I blurry, guys? So I'm not blurry to myself here. I saw both Aliza and I. Anyway, I'm not going to bore everyone with my blur. But we all have mental health challenges, and we have to be able to, the more we can acknowledge them in ourselves, the more we can not be scared of them. Because again, fear comes from often the not knowing. Fear comes from the not knowing, and we want to be able to understand it. So things like anxiety, and I'm waiting for Aliza, she's not here yet. Anxiety, depression, things like that.
are not necessarily deal breakers, right? A lot of people hear things like that and rush off and say, that's it, no way, because they're scared of what it might mean. But these conditions, particularly depression and anxiety, are very easy to manage. They're easy to manage. So the question is whether someone's functioning, as Aliza said, and if they're managing it. And if that's the case, that's like better the devil you know when it comes to dating, right? Like a lot of the fears in my clients are, I'm not going to know who I'm marrying. Something's going to pop up, like some evil aspect of them, or a bad aspect, or dysfunctional aspect, or health issue, or something's going to come up. I'm not going to know who I'm marrying, and I'm scared of that. And here she is, and I am scared of that. So I don't know. That's what gives a lot of people dating
Sorry, Jackie.
fear.
I don't know if it's
There we go.
Okay, we're back on. No, now you're perfect. Okay.
Am I blurry? Okay. Great. So I was just saying how, people, when you get to know your own mental health and anxiety, and don't be scared of it. Let's say when we have anxiety, mental health, not mental illness, you're not as scared of it in other people. And I said, better the devil you know when it comes to dating, that if someone is functioning, like you said, and they're on medication, they're totally managing their condition, that's a far better thing to know about someone than getting married and not knowing about a character trait.
Or
that
like
you didn't see
being so
before.
stubborn, like, I'm not taking medication, but then you're experiencing a lot of down, a lot of anxiety, you're not functioning well. So to me, what I look at is, let's look at prognosis. What type of medication is this person on? How are they functioning? You want to look at the full picture, as opposed to it's not black and white, right? Like you want to really get an understanding of what is this condition, because someone could be on medication for a specific thing that, then you might, for let's say something like schizophrenia, where you really have to think about, what is my life going to look like? The same way with a physical illness, right? If someone has a chronic illness as opposed to something that's more like anxiety. So you want to know, how is this person doing? Once this question will ask all the time, like, I don't want my child, I hear this a lot of time from parents, I don't want my child going on medication because, for shidduchim, for dating. And it's like, well, hold on a minute. But look at your child. Let's look at her. Do you want your child to be getting married now or dating? I wouldn't want my child to be dating someone who's really their OCD is overtaking their life right now. They're not functioning. To me, it's not about that. It's how are they functioning? And then even there's another question that I think also often comes up is like, what if my child has something in the past, but now they're fine? Do I need to share this on the date? So first of all, speak to your rabbi.
Yes. I have that down.
Speak to your rabbi.
When to disclose.
Right, when to disclose. First of all, speak to your rabbi, but I'm not going to give the halacha guideline, but in terms of just saying, like, you want to be honest, right? If a person has a relapse in their life at some point and you never told them, how is it? Honesty is so important in a relationship. You want them to know. And I think that, you don't disclose it right away after the first person you meet, right when you meet them, but
do not disclose it right away. And I have to just say, don't disclose it to every shadchan.
Right. That's good point.
You're not obligated. I've really heard this. Do not do that. You are not obligated to disclose your mental health, anything mental health, or anything in your family, anything that you think could be an obstacle or a challenge to get through, and someone has to, you have to discuss it with someone you're dating seriously. But you only discuss it before engagement, but once something is established that's serious, like a connection, like you've had a connection, there's real potential here. It's not the first 3 dates, right? And you don't have to tell the shadchan. So within that range, you got to speak to your rabbi. But that for sure is for sure. I've asked many gedolim about this at different points, especially even with my own life. My dad died when I was young. My mother wasn't well, and all this stuff. So you have to be able to know that you are not obligated. Shadchans will ask you. They will sometimes be pushy. Sorry, I'm just
let's hear
dating angle for a minute. That they'll sometimes be pushy, and they'll sometimes think that, say that you need to tell me because I need to be able to set you up. And that's, yes, I hear why they're saying it. They have a right to ask, but you are not obligated to tell every shadchan. And if it was me, and when it was me, because I dated for many, many years, I don't know if you know my story, but I got married very late, and I just never told them. I didn't want to tell them, because when I did, they dealt with that information incorrectly and insensitively. And it's your information, it's your personal life. And you can be in control and in charge. Just because you're single doesn't mean you lose control over your personal life and story. Like identity and like have all this judgment and fear around it. No, you get to choose who you share your personal life and story with. when there's someone you're dating that it's serious, you see there's real potential, but it's before engagement, and it should come from you, not a
I
shotgun.
agree with you so much.
So I think
yeah, that's very personal information. That's not something that maybe you never even tell a shot. I don't know. This is something that you discuss with the person that you're dating. Yeah.
100%. Don't talk about it. Yes, exactly. So I don't think singles know that. I think that alone, if you're watching this live, that is worth the whole live. As in that point to give you permission to not tell everyone, just because people go either way with halacha. They say, because it's halacha to disclose, I'm obligated to disclose with everyone. And then no, it's like lashon hara. Like I'm gonna, people speak lashon hara when they shouldn't, and they don't.
Right, exactly.
It's like,
nuanced.
So yeah. So
that is an important point.
So I think that's a very important point.
It really is.
And when to disclose, and that medication is a good thing. It's
exactly. And sometimes it actually saves people's lives. Like I've seen people where they didn't take medication and they ended up in this deep depression, where then they actually developmentally stunted them because they were like dissociated the whole time. They were dealing with trauma, and then it actually really impacted their life. If they would have been on medication, they would have not been impacted in a way. So sometimes it could really save people's lives. And so like it's not like this stigma, medicate. Like at certain points people live, maybe people have to go on it. And again, we just have to look at prognosis, the whole picture. How are they functioning? How are they as a human being? Forget about medication. How are they functioning in the world? How are, looking at mental health in terms of the scope of many different things, the relationship with themselves, with other people.
Right. How they bond with you. Like if you can feel a connection,
exactly.
Are they present? Are they able to share their feelings? Are they emotionally intelligent? Sometimes the people that go through mental health challenges are the most self-aware superstars, because they've had to go through that inner journey and they've built themselves. And so we really have to look at differently. All adversity, all challenges, all things we consider like a blemish on the paper are, what I've experienced, the ones that make superstars. Because if you work it through, you can build yourself.
A lot of times they're self-aware, growth-oriented people who are in touch with themselves because they had to.
Right.
And they really could go on to one amazing things. I definitely agree with that.
Amazing. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about then what are the red flags? Like when should you say, listen, this is going to be a really difficult marriage, maybe not impossible, but really difficult. And when are the times where I should feel like, if I'm a relatively healthy person myself and I'm not struggling with those challenges, that this maybe is too big a gap.
I would say, okay, there's two types of red flags. So red flags in terms of a person, meaning, okay, let's put it in two categories. So let's say red flags, obviously someone who is abusive, who has anger issues to the point that they're not dealing with it. They're hurting people. They're destroying things. They're making holes in the wall. And those are things obviously that are extremely big red flags. But even things like, are they emotionally available? Are they ready to be in a relationship? I'm not saying it's a red flag, but these are things you want to really look close at. Like, are they ready to be intimate? Are they emotionally available? Are they interested in you? Are they checked out? Things like that. And also in terms of just, you want to think about, not a red flag, but if someone does struggle with a mental health disorder that is something like psychosis, or, you really have to, that's something that is you really have to see how's this going to impact my life. And that's something that's not, I'm saying a red flag, but that's not something that should be taken lightly. The same way if you're marrying someone who's struggling with a chronic illness, you have to also see, right, how is it going to impact your life. But in terms of just dating and what to look out for, you want to see, is this person emotionally available? Is this person interested in me? What's your relationship with yourself? If you do not have a healthy relationship with yourself, how are you going to have a healthy relationship with someone else? Even just something basic like, what do I like? Do you know yourself? What do I enjoy? What don't I like? Sometimes people, they enter relationships where they're looking for someone to save them, or they're looking for to figure out like who they are. Or validation.
For who they are.
Equals. We're not looking for someone. We're not looking to put someone on a pedestal. We're not looking to save someone or be saved. So I think we really need to think about, like, how am I independently of being in a relationship? In order to be in a relationship with a person, you need to be able to be not in a relationship. You know, like, so I think it's very, very important.
Yes.
If you cannot be in a relationship,
I
if you cannot deal with being alone, then you should not then you should not be in a relationship. You should not be in a long-term committed relationship. You need to be able to be your own independent person. So red flags to come out as like this over dependency. They have no sense of self. They are clingy to the point that they can't separate themselves. They don't know how to be with themselves. And these are things you really want to look out. Are they interested in you? You know, someone was dating, telling me recently she was dating someone and they were really not, they would check in once in a while. They really weren't interested, you know, and it's like, you want to see that it should be mutual. Yeah, you want to see that they're, you know, interested in you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like, we're not chasing.
Yeah, I would add also, can they make space for you? Meaning if someone is so absorbed in their own anxiety, depression, or psychosis or whatever, can they make space for you? Can they actually see you when you're dating them? Can they respond to your needs? Which is what you're saying. And can they, you know, do they follow through also with what they say they're going to do? Because sometimes mental health can interrupt that. And because of being overwhelmed, they become flaky. It looks like flaky, but it's really just the functioning level. And if someone can't follow through, then you can't trust them. They're not reliable. You can't give your heart to someone if they can't hold that and be reliable and trustworthy. And so that's really, they're the qualities that I think that you can look for. And you don't have to be so scared about the mental health, because if you see a person that you're dating follows through with what they say, can make space for you, can meet your needs, is not extreme in any way, right? We're looking for normal, middle of the road, healthy balance, right? In your life in general, as well as how they respond to you. So then, you know, then you can be sure that they're more stable, more functional, as opposed to, you know, mental. Obviously, it has to come out as an overt conversation at some point about mental health. But even just you can trust what you experience when you're dating someone repetitively. Not at the beginning, because at the beginning, everyone's trying to put on their best thing. But over time, don't rush into engagement. You don't have to rush. You know, you can see how it plays out. But I think those are important red flags to look for. And I would add in also addiction. If someone has an active addiction, I specialized in addiction many, many moons ago, but that you're dealing with two different things. You're dealing with, firstly, are they in active addiction? Secondly, are they in recovery? That's very important. And number two is that you're dealing then when you're dating or marrying and it's someone who's with addiction, you're dealing with all the problems that come with that specific addiction, as well as the underlying problems that drive that addiction. And you have to know that, and you have to expect that. Would I be okay if they relapsed? That's the bottom line. Like, I can't expect perfection, even if they're stable now, functioning now, and they're good. Life happens, stress happens. And when they get stressed, people typically go back to whatever it was they did before as a default when they were stressed. And so for someone who's an addict, they go back to that addiction. So can you handle a relapse in this addiction, whatever that addiction is, and be able to support them to get back on the road, knowing they really want to?
Really,
I think that's an important question, because addiction is very complex and tricky.
That is a very good point. You really want to understand like what this is going to look like. What is this addiction going to look like for your life? What's their history? How are they doing now? And again, you don't necessarily have to. It's understandable if you don't want to. That's your choice. If you want to get into a relationship with someone that struggles with this, there's also this other side that you know, my husband was recently saying, he was like, I know, he's like, some of the people who he has some people that he knows, that a friend that struggles with addiction. He's like, you know what? But they're always in recovery, meaning they're always self-aware. They're always growing, because if you're not, he's like, in a way, he's like, these people there's so much depth to them because they're always, so I'm not saying it could be very hard, you know, to struggle with that and to be married to someone, you know, with that. But there's also that other piece of that, if there's someone that is in recovery, and they're always growing, they're always self-aware, they're always working on themselves. So it is like just something, you know, to think about on both sides, like the reality of it and also like what that comes with.
It's like the addiction forces them to be always in tune with themselves
and
internally.
To themselves,
So they're building themselves. Yeah, I hear that. That's a really nice spin on that, because it is. I think that you just have to also, some people could say like for singles, what I recommend you do is make a list of, my singles always freak out when I say this to them, make a list of all the flaws you could live with someone. So and they're like, what do you mean? I said, well, you've got flaws and they're going to have to live with your flaws. So what flaws can you live with? Not like, what are the red flags I have to run away? Yes, you need to be aware of that. But what are the flaws you could live with? So even with this topic, like what mental health issues could you handle? Like if need be, right? Like, you know, I could handle anxiety, no problem, right? Depression is, I could handle moderate depression probably. But like, you know, what can you handle? Like what, and with addictions, are there some addictions you say absolutely
like, I
no
just
way?
want to tell people here, like, I'm not people who are struggling, who are married or in a relationship with addiction. I don't want to underrate that. It is really hard. Like you know, it's hard. But so you have to really,
yes, it's very hard, and you have to know yourself. You have to know yourself. You have to find out about it in a real way from therapists and whatever, rather than just freak out. I think that's the biggest thing is don't just freak out. This is so much more complex.
Yeah. Even speak to their mental health professional. You know, I had clients that were dating, and I did. I spoke to their person that they were dating. I spoke to even the person they were dating's therapist. They also had a therapist, let's say. So like, don't be afraid. Wow. Don't just get scared and run away. And I think that's what we're trying to say is like, don't run yet. First, find out more information, do more research.
Right. Because guess what? We say in Australia, every man and his dog, meaning every other person, is dealing with something like that. So many people, no, I don't think people realize that so many people are on medication for anxiety.
Yeah, the statistics are like crazy high. Like they say how many people are, I forgot the number, but it's really, really high number of how many prescriptions are written out a year for.
Right. So you can't just hear that and run. It's silly because you might be really missing your soulmate here, right? Like we really need to take it seriously and not be scared. Do your research. Look at the functioning. Look at what you can live with. Know yourself well enough to know what you can. Like, would you rather someone dealing with anxiety or someone who has an anger issue? Like, there's always going to be some flaws, always. And so, what issues can you deal with? And I think that's an important thing to ask yourself honestly. Like, there's lots of flaws that we have. And in these areas, it might be that you're okay. Maybe you're a soothing type of person and not kind of a loving, supportive person. And that's exactly what someone with anxiety or depression needs. And that helps them really heal, you know, and they're there for you in other ways. So I think you have to be open-minded about it. And I also wanted to touch on, think we should touch on also how to look after our own mental health when we're dating, because it is brutal, Aliza. Dating is brutal. It is just so brutal for singles, and they have their own struggle with trying to find a shit off, but at the same time, they have all the judgment and all the pressure, on top of it. And so what I've seen and what I experienced dating for many years is it really eats away at your core sense of self and self-worth.
Even if you're relatively good. I was
like relatively healthy.
Yeah. How could it not?
You. And then you start going, well, maybe there is something wrong with me. You know, how I got into this full time was I did a class online called "There's Nothing Wrong with You," of a Zoom with Saw You at Sinai. There's nothing wrong with you. 180 people came with very little advertising. In the middle of the class, as I'm sharing, validating singles that you're okay, you're good. Yes, you might need to work on stuff, but your essence is good. You're worthy. You know, people were turning off their cameras. And later on, I thought they were bored and they were checking email, you know, on the Zoom. And later on, 30 to 40 of them emailed me privately and said I was bawling because no one ever said it.
Was the elephant
and I was like,
in the room.
Oh,
even the name, that's what probably drew so many people. Yes. It was like, something's not wrong with me. Like, this is exactly how I'm feeling. Which,
yes. Exactly, and everyone's telling me that. Leading the general opinion and general approach from the community around singles is, okay, what are you doing wrong?
Looking at it as you're the problem. There is a problem. You're either you have commitment issues, either this or that, and it's so much more in the Orthodox in our culture.
Not
because
true.
In the secular world, people 35, 33, people are starting to settle down. You know, and so it really is. So how do we take care of our mental health? It's very, you know, I think what you said, it's like really trying to separate this experience from who you are. Like, and reminding yourself every day. Listen, obviously you want to check facts. That's also taking care of our mental health, which is why you should probably speak to a mental health professional and just try to see, like, okay, is there some sort of blockage? We do want to obviously check in with ourselves to know that we're doing our own homework, that we're not, let's say being, you know, running away or fears getting in the way, fine. We want to take responsibility for ourselves if there is anything, right? Sometimes there's absolutely nothing. And then the other piece is really reminding yourself every day, there is nothing wrong with me. You need to like say it out loud. You know, there's something about saying something that actually can really change the way we think, just even verbalizing it. And also like at the same time, not letting dating take over your life. You know, if it becomes your life, it's very hard not to, but at the same point, trying to, as much as you can, live your life and go on with living. A lot of times what happens is people get stuck. They're like, you know, I had this recently, I was working with someone and they're like, oh, I don't know if I should take this job because I might get engaged. I was like, hold on. Let's try to remember, let's go on. And I think that also brings a lot of anxiety when you start to put dating as your thing. I need this to happen. That actually, what ends up happening is actually dating becomes more anxiety provoking because you're putting everything in this as opposed to, you know, let me set boundaries. It's very important that you set boundaries around dating. I am continuing with my life. I'm not going to change my whole schedule to go on this date. I'm not flying around the world for this date necessarily. Like sometimes people get carried away, and I think it's very important to set boundaries with ourselves. That dating is something I'm doing the same way I'm going to the gym. Okay, maybe it's a little different, but no, but realizing that this is something that I do on the side. I have to continue to live my life. And if you have those boundaries in place, it will not take over. And also do things that you love if you can. Go traveling, do things that are meaningful, you know, just to help you get through this time where
don't wait till you get married before you feel like you're starting your life. A lot of people say, oh, I'm going to start my life once I get married. And I want to add two things. So one is an extension of what you're saying, which is it's really, really important to feel your strengths, to feel your strength being single, because you feel so like sometimes low because you're not married. That's important to put yourself in areas, not necessarily vacations or anything, but like where you access your strengths, where you're volunteering, where you're helping others. There's so many millions of people around you that need you more because of who you are, that you can give. And so when you put yourself in a place of strength and you can give to someone who needs you more, you just identify with a different part of yourself. And so you don't feel that low, less than, pained person, right? Like even though there is legitimate pain to being single, there's so much else more about you that you have and that you're strong in. So that's number one, is really find where can I put myself that I feel strong. Right, being the only single girl at a whole huge table, you know, for chagim, when you're the one expected to do everything all the time. That so many singles tell me that really takes a lot out of them. Right, don't put yourself always in those positions where you feel like you're the random single girl, single guy.
Life was extra pain.
Like, don't do that. I mean, you have to do that sometimes. You have to do that sometimes, but like, you don't have to do that all the time. And then the other thing is don't, and this is harder, but don't surround yourself with negative, fetchy, complaining friends who hate being single and just complain about it.
Will bring you down.
Because that will affect you deeply. It will bring you down. And I've had so many singles say that I had to move away from the single scene, or they changed their friends, or they just weren't as available to their friends. They're getting love hearts from that, right? Don't surround yourself in really negative like mindsets. So many people like to bond through complaining. Oh my gosh, it was so terrible. Like, don't do that because it really affects us. So number one, put yourself with positive people. I used to have mainly married friends. Like all my best friends were married when I was single because I didn't want to identify with friends only because we're single. I didn't want to be the token single girl, and I didn't want to go to singles events like only because I was single, or single meals, let's say. Even though they're fun, I have nothing against them, and as long as they're positive, great. But go and have a eclectic mix of friends, right? And hang out with little kids. Hang out with little kids. Little kids love you up. Get hugs with little kids, right? They really, really feed a part of you that needs nurturing. And I think that that's important, is to, while you're waiting, you need some love. You need some unconditional love. And like I got a massage every week. That was really nurturing for my own mental health every week. If you can't do it every week, do it every 2 weeks, once a month. I don't care, but get some touch. Touch is really important, like to feel good, to feel calm. So do something like that if you can. There's definitely options that are not so expensive, and get some love from little kids. Everyone's got access to a little kid somewhere to give a hug, like a neighbor or a best friend or a family or a niece or nephew. You know, give them hugs. You're the parents of them. If you want to babysit them, also would love the help. And then you're in a giving mode as well. You're supporting a family. So many of my families have such gratitude to me because I helped them with things that when I was able to be single and just run around different houses, I
Right.
would help out, whether it's help cook for Shabbos, whether it was kids, or they felt so grateful to me. I was in a place of
I
strength.
think, yeah, like,
So
mhm.
yeah, that's
really
really
looking for things that are going to like warm you, that are going to give you strength, that are going to make you feel good. And for everyone, I think it's different. But I think having that support, like that outside support, and having a variety of different places that you can turn to is very important. So whether it's your married friends and your single friends, and maybe, you know, like different things that you can do to just make yourself feel good and continue to live your life is so important. And it does feel good, great sometimes to vent. Like, I can understand that you would want to vent sometimes, but if that's the only thing that your relationship is built on, and that's the only thing you're doing every time you meet, then that's not going to fill you up. That's just going to bring you down. And I have some single friends who, you know, they really are living their, like, it's very hard. And at the same time, you see that they have their single friends, they have their married friends, they're living their life, they're working, you know, I admire them. They really are, they're continuing to live their life as much as they can while still, you know, being in this place. So I really think it is. It's what you do. It's what you do every day in general that's going to impact your mental health, whether you're single or not. So it doesn't stop because you're single. Right. And I think that people have to not wait to live, right? Like, I'm going to start living once I get married. No, we need to continue living every single day. So do what you like, do what self-care, all these things are important. And I do think that, like, filling yourself up, like what you said, with things that make you, that you're good at, that you feel like you're using your strengths, are so important to remind yourself, like, this is not, my identity is not being single. My identity is me. It's who I am. It's not based on you're married or you're single. Right. Like, some people, being married doesn't mean you're better than. Like, it's just something that happens to you. So I think sometimes people,
it's a life stage that we're put in to help continue to grow. And what people don't realize is you're single also for a reason. You're single to grow. And when you go through that journey, that chapter, and you've grown to a certain place, then God will bring you your other half. And then you're in a new chapter with that other half, growing in a different way. It doesn't stop there. A lot of singles' goal is marriage, and then they think that's it. That's just the beginning. It's like Minesweeper. You jump into the next level and a whole thing opens up. Like, it's the next chapter, you know. So you're in a rush to get to the next chapter, but right now you're in this chapter. So stay in the present, stay in the moment. What do I need to work on in myself to build, to become more whole, to be able to have the best marriage I can have? That should be the question. And if you're interested in doing the inner work,
and
Jackie, Aliza, she's in the 5 towns. Do you do Zoom? Okay, so Aliza does Zoom, and she works at a very deep level with the EMDR as well. So she deals with trauma and somatic therapy, which I love. That's one of my favorites. And the subconscious, which is like my deal breaker for therapists. And if you're single and you want to do the deeper work, as in like learn tools to apply them to yourself, I do a short 9-week program, 8 weeks really, but it's an extra week of support, online with mostly New York people, actually, some LA, a lot of New York. And we deep dive into that core, which is that self-worth, self-trust. You know, if you're dealing with anxiety, like on a milder level, not needing, not a clinical level, and you want to work on that, a lot of this anxiety comes from a lack of self-worth. It comes from a lack of self-trust, the indecisiveness, all of that comes out. You can heal that. You don't have to just sit with that forever and say, I just need to medicate and stay there. You can heal it. We can show you how. So please be in touch with us. If you're married, I'm actually launching a married women's course to teach you the tools of how to live from your higher self, it's mine's more the spiritual frame with Hashem, and also, which therapists generally don't do. That's why I like to call myself a coach, because I can do whatever I want. There's no rule that way. And also to really learn how to tune into your subconscious, where those limiting beliefs might be living, which I think are really important to get to know yourself and to be able to learn how to relate to yourself differently, which helps them naturally change. And so if you're interested in that, married women, single women, I'm launching the married women's next month in camp when all your kids are out, so you have more time. And singles, I have an ongoing course. Happy to speak about it.
Good.
But thank you, Aliza, for an amazing discussion.
Yeah, it really is.
Really
it's such a great
discussion.
chat. And
yeah, we should talk offline, because I want to
definitely
refer people to you.
Chat offline. Not in person, because I would have to fly. But
okay, amazing.
Oh yeah,
I come there every couple months.
Love to meet in person.
Yeah, I will. Okay. Awesome.
Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thanks, Aliza. Have a great day.